Today we're getting into abominations, what is considered abominable to mighty God Ahia. We're going to cover several chapters of the King James Version Bible, starting off with Job 15:16, which states, "How much more abominable and filthy is man, which drinketh iniquity like water? These 6 things that Ahia mighty God hate, 7 are an abomination unto him: a proud look, a lying tongue, and hands that shed innocent blood, and heart that deviseth wicked imaginations, feet that be swift in running to mischief, a false witness that speaketh lies, and he that soweth discord among brethren. The fool has said in his heart, There is no God. Corrupt are they, and have done abominable iniquity, which is sin. There is none that doeth good. For the froward is abomination to a mighty God, but his secret is with the righteous. A false balance is abomination to a mighty God, but a just weight is his delight. They that are of a froward heart are abomination to a mighty God, but such as are upright in their way are his delight. Lying lips are an abomination to a mighty God, our Elohi, but they that deal truly are his delight. The sacrifice of the wicked is an abomination to a mighty God, but the prayer of the upright is his delight. The way of the wicked is an abomination unto a mighty God, but he loveth him that followed after righteousness. The thoughts of the wicked are an abomination to a mighty God, but the words of the pure are pleasant words. Everyone that is proud in heart is an abomination to Ahia our Elohi. Though hand join in hand, he shall not be unpunished. It is an abomination to kings to commit wickedness, for the throne is established by righteousness. He that justified the wicked, and he that commended, or he that condemned the just, even they both are abomination to Ahia our Elohi, our mighty God. Diverse weights and diverse measures, both of them are alike abomination to Ahia our mighty God. Diverse weights are an abomination unto Ahia our mighty God, and a false balance is not good. The sacrifice of the wicked is an abomination. How much more when he bringeth it with a wicked mind? The thought of foolishness is sin, and the scorner is an abomination to men. He that hateth dissembled with his lips, and layeth up deceit within him. When he speaketh fair, believe him not, for there are 7 abominations in his heart. Whose hatred is covered by deceit, his wickedness shall be showed before the whole congregation. He that turneth away his ear from hearing the law, even his prayer shall be an abomination. An unjust man is an abomination to the just, and he that is upright in the way is an abomination to the wicked. When thou art come into the land which Ahia thy mighty God giveth thee, thou shalt not learn to do after the abominations of those nations. There shall not be found among you any one that maketh his son or his daughter to pass through the fire, or that useth divination, or an observer of times, or an enchanter, or a witch, or a charmer, or a consulter with familiar spirits, or a wizard, or a necromancer. For all that do these things are an abomination unto Ahia our mighty God. And because of these abominations, Ahia our Elohi doth drive them out from before thee. Moreover, thou shalt not lie carnally with thy neighbor's wife, to defile thyself with her. And thou shalt not let any of thy seed pass through the fire to Moloch. Neither shalt thou profane the name of Ahia our mighty God. I am Ahia. Thou shalt not lie with mankind as with womankind. It is an abomination. Neither shalt thou lie with any beast, to defile thyself therewith. Neither shall any woman stand before a beast to lie down thereto. It is confusion. Defile not you yourselves in any of these things, for in all these the nations are defiled, which I cast out before you, and the land is defiled. Therefore I do visit the iniquity, the sin thereof upon it, and the land itself vomited out her inhabitants. You shall therefore keep my statutes and my judgments, and shall not commit any of these abominations, neither any of your own nation, nor any stranger that sojourneth among you. For all these abominations have the men of the land done, which were before you, and the land is defiled, that the land spewed not you out also, when you defiled it, as it spewed out the nations that were before you. For whosoever shall commit any of these abominations, even the souls that commit them shall be cut off from among their people. Therefore shall you keep my ordinance, that you commit not any one of these abominable customs, which were committed before you, and that you defile not yourselves therein. I am Ahiah, your mighty God. Let's pause for a brief second. When in the verses which states man should not lie with beast, women should not lie with beast, that happened in the beginning. That's where the dinosaurs came from the children of heaven, called the fallen angels, that mixed or had sex with creepy things, four-legged beast, mixing their seed with beast and animals, and that's abominable to mighty God Ahiah. And he destroyed all those dinosaurs with his fire that came down from heaven. I'm with the flood. But in the latter end, it will be fire that comes down from heaven to destroy them, because history has repeated. So let's get back into the scriptures, continuing on in Leviticus 20, verse 13. If a man also lie with mankind, as he lie with a woman, both of them have committed an abomination. They shall surely be put to death. Their blood shall be upon them. You shall therefore put difference between clean beast and unclean, and between unclean fowls and clean. And you shall not make your souls abominable by beast, or by fowl, or by any manner of living thing that creepeth on the ground, which I have separated from you as unclean. The graven images of their gods shall you burn with fire. Thou shalt not despise the silver or gold that is on them, nor take it unto thee, lest thou be snared therein. For it is an abomination to Ahiah thy mighty God. Neither shalt thou bring an abomination into thine house, lest thou be a cursed thing like it. But thou shalt utterly detest it, and thou shalt utterly abhor it, for it is a cursed thing. Take heed to thyself that thou be not snared by following them, after that they be destroyed from before thee, and that thou inquire not after their gods, saying, how did these nations serve their gods? Even so will I do likewise. Thou shalt not do so unto Ahiah thy mighty God. For every abomination to Ahiah our mighty God, which he hated, have they done unto their gods. For even their sons and their daughters they have burnt in the fire of their gods. Thou shalt not eat any abominable thing. Leviticus chapter 11 goes over the food laws. We will discuss that in a separate ministry. But of the cities of these people, which Ahiah thy mighty God do give thee for an inheritance, thou shalt save alive nothing that breatheth, but thou shalt utterly destroy them, namely, the Hittites, and the Amorites, the Canaanites, and the Perizzites, the Hivites, and the Jebusites, as Ahiah thy mighty God had commanded thee, that they teach you not to do after all their abominations, which they have done unto their gods. So should you sin against Ahiah your mighty God. The woman shall not wear that which pertaineth unto a man, neither shall a man put on a woman's garment. For all that do so are abomination unto Ahiah thy mighty God. Thou shalt not bring the hire of a whore, or the price of a dog, into the house of Ahiah thy mighty God, for any vow. For even both these abominations unto Ahiah thy mighty God. Thou shalt not have in thine house diverse measures, a great and a small, but thou shalt have a perfect and just weight. A perfect and just measure shalt thou have, that thy days may be lengthened in the land which Ahiah thy mighty God giveth thee. For all that do such things, and all that do unrighteously or an abomination unto Ahiah thy Elohi. Curse, excuse me, cursed be the man that maketh any graven or molten image, an abomination unto Ahiah thy mighty God, the work of the hands of the craftsman, and putteth it in a secret place. And all the people shall answer and say, Amen. And you have seen their abominations and their idols, wood and stone, silver and gold, which were among them. They provoked him to jealousy with strange gods. With abominations provoked they him to anger. They sacrificed unto devils, and not to Ahiah Almighty God, to gods whom they knew not, to new gods that came newly up, whom your fathers fear not. Moreover, all the chief of the priests and the people transgressed very much after all the abominations of the heathen, and polluted the house of Ahiah Almighty God, which he had hallowed in Jerusalem. Now, when these things were done, the princes came to me, saying, The people of Israel and the priests and the Levites have not separated themselves from the people of the lands, doing according to their abominations, even of the Canaanites, the Hittites, the Perizzites, the Jebusites, the Ammonites, the Moabites, the Egyptians, and the Amorites. For they have taken of their daughters for themselves and for their sons, so that the Holy See have mingled themselves with the people of those lands. The hand of the princes and rulers have been chief in this trespass. Since the days of our fathers have we been in a great trespass unto this day, and for our iniquities have we, our kings and our priests, been delivered into the hand of the kings of the lands, to the sword, to captivity, and to a spoil, and to confusion of face, as it is this day. And now, O our mighty God Ahiah, what shall we say after this? For we have forsaken thy commandments, which thou hast commanded by thy servants the prophets, saying, The land into which you go to possess it is an unclean land, with the filthiness of the people of the lands, with their abominations, which have filled it from one end to another with their uncleanness. Now therefore give not your daughters unto their sons, neither take their daughters unto your sons, nor seek their peace of their wealth forever, that you may be strong and eat the good of the land, and leave it for an inheritance to your children forever. And after all that is come upon us for our evil deeds and for our great trespass, seeing that thou, our mighty God Ahiah, hast punished us less than our iniquities deserve, and hast given us such deliverance as this, should we again break thy commandments and join in infinity with the people of these abominations? Wouldst not thou be angry with us till thou hast consumed us, so that there shall be no remnant nor escaping? O Ahiah, Almighty God of Israel, thou art righteous, for we remain yet escaped, as it is this day. Behold, we are before thee in our trespasses, for we cannot stand before thee because of this. As Ahiah says, Bring no more vain oblations. Incense is an abomination unto me. The new moons and the Sabbaths, the calling of assemblies, I cannot away with. It is iniquity, even the solemn meeting. Behold, you are of nothing, and your work of naught. An abomination is he that chooseth you. That they that sanctify themselves and purify themselves in the gardens behind one tree in the midst, eating swine's flesh, and the abomination and the mouse shall be consumed together, says Ahiah, mighty God. Thus says Ahiah, mighty God, our El Elohi, what iniquity have your fathers found in me, that they are gone far from me, and have walked after vanity, and are become vain? Neither said they, Where is Ahiah El Elohi that brought us up out of the land of Egypt, that led us through the wilderness, through a land of deserts and of pits, through a land of drought and of the shadow of death, through a land that no man passed through, and where no man dwelt. And I brought you into a plentiful country to eat the fruit thereof, and the goodness thereof. But when you entered, you defiled my land, and made mine heritage an abomination. The priests said not, Where is Ahiah mighty God? And they that handled the law knew me not. The pastors also transgressed against me, and the prophets prophesied by Baal, and walked after things that do not profit. If thou wilt return, O Israel, said Ahiah mighty God, return unto me, and if thou wilt put away thine abominations out of my sight, then shalt thou not remove. Thou shalt not remove, and thou shalt swear. Ahiah mighty God liveth, in truth, in judgment, and in righteousness. And the nations shall bless themselves in him, and in him shall they glory. They have healed also the hurt of the daughter of my people, who is Eve, slightly saying, Peace, peace, when there is no peace. Were they ashamed when they had committed abomination? Nay, they were not at all ashamed, neither could they blush. Therefore they shall fall among them that fall. At the time that I visit them, they shall be cast down, says Ahiah mighty God. Thus says Ahiah El Elohi, Stand you in the way, and see, and ask for the old paths, where is the good way, and walk therein, and you shall find rest for your souls. But they said, We will not walk therein. Will you steal, murder, and commit adultery, and swear falsely, and burn incense to Baal, and walk after other gods whom you know not? And come and stand before me in this house, which is called by my name, and say, We are delivered to do all these abominations? Is this house which is called by my name become a den of robbers in your eyes? Behold, even I have seen it, said Ahiah mighty God. For the children of Judah had done evil in my sight, says Ahiah mighty God. They have set their abominations in the house which is called by my name, to pollute it. Were they ashamed when they had committed abomination? Nay, they were not at all ashamed, neither could they blush. Therefore shall they fall among them that fall. In the time of their visitation they shall be cast down, says Ahiah mighty God. I have seen thine adulteries, and thy neighbors, or thy denyings, the lewdness of thy whoredom, and thine abominations on the hills and the fields. Woe unto thee, Jerusalem! Wilt thou not be made clean? When shall it once be? And first I will recompense their iniquity and their sin double, because they have defiled my land. They have filled my inheritance with the carcasses of detestable and abominable things. And they have turned unto me the back, and not the face, though I taught them, rising up early and teaching them. Yet they have not hearkened to receive instruction. But they set their abominations in the house which is called by my name, to defile it. Howbeit I sent unto you all my servants, the prophets, rising early and sending them, saying, do not this abominable thing that I hate. So that Ahiah mighty God could no longer bear, because of the evil of your doings, and because of the abominations which you have committed. Therefore is your land a desolation, and an astonishment, and a curse, without an inhabitant, as at this day. Because you have burned incense, and because you have sinned against Ahiah thy mighty God, and have not obeyed the voice of Ahiah, nor walked in his law, nor in his statutes, nor in his testimonies. Therefore this evil is happened unto you, as at this day. Thus says Ahiah mighty God of hosts, the mighty God of Israel. You have seen all the evil that I have brought upon Jerusalem, and upon all the cities of Judah. And behold, this day they are a desolation, and no man dwelleth therein. because of their wickedness which they have committed to provoke me to anger, in that they went to burn incense and to serve other gods whom they knew not, neither they you nor your fathers. Howbeit I sent unto you all my servants, the prophets, rising early and sending them, saying, Oh, do not this abominable thing that I hate. But they hearken not, nor incline their ear to turn from their wickedness, to burn no incense unto other gods. Therefore, thus says a high and mighty God, Behold, even I am against thee, and I will execute judgments in the midst of thee in the sight of the nations. And I will do in thee that which I have not done, and whereunto I will not do any more the like, because of all thine abominations. Wherefore, as I live, says a high and mighty God, surely because thou hast defiled my sanctuary with all thy detestable things, and with all thine abominations, therefore will I also diminish thee. Neither shall mine eyes spare, neither will I have any pity. And they that escape of you shall remember me among the nations whither they shall be carried captives, because I am broken with their whorish heart, which had departed from me, and with their eyes, which go a-whoring after their idols. And they shall loathe themselves for the evils which they have committed in all their abominations. Thus says a high and mighty God, Smite with thine hand, and stamp with thy foot, and say, Alas, for all the evil abominations of the house of Israel, for they shall fall by the sword, by the famine, and by the pestilence. Also, thou son of man, thus said a high and mighty God unto the land of Israel, the end is come upon repeat that. Also, thou son of man, thus said a high and mighty God unto the land of Israel, the end is come upon the four corners of the land. Now is the end come upon thee, and I will send mine anger upon thee, and I will judge thee according to thy ways, and will recompense upon thee all thine abominations. Mine eye shall not spare thee, neither will I have pity, but I will recompense thy ways upon thee, and thine abomination shall be in the midst of thee. And you shall know that I am a high and mighty God. Thus says Ahia El Elohi, an evil, and only evil, behold, is come, and end is come. The end is come. It watcheth for thee. Behold, it is come. The morning is come unto thee, O thou that dwellest in the land. The time is come, the day of trouble is near, and not the sounding again of the mountains. Now will I surely pour out my fury upon thee, and accomplish mine anger upon thee, and I will judge thee according to thy ways, and will recompense thee for all thine abominations. And my eye shall not spare, neither will I have pity. I will recompense thee according to thy ways, and thine abominations that are in the midst of thee. And you shall know that I am a high and mighty God that smiteth. Then said he unto me, Son of man, lift up thine eyes now the way toward the north. So I lifted up my eyes the way toward the north, and behold, northward, at the gate of the altar, this image of jealousy in the entry. He said furthermore unto me, Son of man, seest thou what they do? Even the great abominations that the house of Israel committed here, that I should go far off from my sanctuary? But turn thee yet again, and thou shalt see greater abominations. And he brought me to the door of the court. And when I looked, behold, a hole in the wall. Then said he unto me, Son of man, dig now in the wall. And when I had digged in the wall, behold, a door. And he said unto me, Go in, and behold, the wicked abominations that they do here. So I went in and saw, behold, every form of creeping things and abominable beast, and all the idols of the house of Israel, portrayed upon the wall round about. And there stood before them 70 men of the ancients of the house of Israel. And in the midst of them stood Jaazaniah the son of Shaphan, with every man his censer in his hand, and a thick cloud of incense went up. Then said he unto me, Son of man, hast thou seen what the ancients of the house of Israel do in the dark? Every man in the chambers of his imaginary. For they say, Ahai mighty God seeth us not. Ahai had forsaken the earth. He said also unto me, Turn thee yet again, and thou shalt see greater abominations that they do. Then he brought me to the door of the gate of Ahiah's house, which was toward the north. Behold, there sat women weeping for Tammuz. Then said he unto me, Hast thou seen this, O son of man? Turn thee yet again, and thou shalt see greater abominations than these. And he brought me unto the inner court of Ahiah's house, and behold, at the door of the temple of Ahiah's mighty God, between the porch and the altar, were about 25 men, with their backs toward the temple of Ahiah mighty God, and their faces toward the east, and they worshipped the sun toward the east. Then he said unto me, Hast thou seen this, O son of man? Is it a light thing to the house of Judah that they commit the abominations which they commit here? For they have filled the land with violence, and have returned to provoke me to anger. And lo, they put the branch to their nose. Therefore will I also deal in fury. My eye shall not spare, neither will I have pity. And though they cry in mine ears with a loud voice, yet will I not hear them. But as for them whose heart walketh after the heart of their detestable things and their abominations, I will recompense their way upon their own heads, says Ahiah mighty God. I will leave a few men of them from the sword, from the famine, and from the pestilence, that they may declare all their abominations among the heathen, whither they come. And they shall know that I am Ahiah mighty God. Therefore say unto the house of Israel, Thus says Ahiah mighty God, Repent, repent, and turn yourselves from your idols, and turn away your faces from all your abominations. Again, the word of Ahiah mighty God came unto me, saying, Son of man, cause Jerusalem to know her abominations, and say, Thus says Ahiah mighty God unto Jerusalem, who is also Israel, Thy birth and thy nativity is of the land of Canaan. Thy father was an Amorite, and thy mother a Hittite. And as for thy nativity is the day thou was born, thy navel was not cut, neither wast thou washed in water to supple thee. Thou wast not salted at all, nor swaddled at all. None eye pitied thee, to do any of these unto thee, to have compassion upon thee. But thou wast cast out in the open field to the loathing of thy person, in the day that thou wast born. And when I passed by thee and saw thee polluted in thine own blood, I said unto thee, when thou wast in thy blood, live. Yea, I said unto thee, when thou wast in thy blood, live. And I have caused thee to multiply as the bud of the field. And thou hast increased and waxen great, and thou art come to excellent ornaments. Thy breasts are fashioned, and thine hair is grown, whereas thou wast naked and bare. Now, when I passed by thee and looked upon thee, behold, thy time was the time of love. And I spread my skirt over thee and covered thy nakedness. Yea, I swore unto thee and entered into a covenant with thee, said Ahiah mighty God, and thou becamest mine. Then washed I thee with water, yea, I thoroughly washed away thy blood from thee, and I anointed thee with oil. I clothed thee also with broidered work, and shod thee with badger's skin. And I girded thee about with fine linen, and I covered thee with silk. I decked thee also with ornaments, and I put bracelets upon thy hands, and a chain on thy neck, and I put a jewel on thy forehead, and earrings in thine ears, and a beautiful crown upon thine head. Thou wast decked with gold and silver, and thy raiment was of fine linen and silk and broidered work. Thou didst eat fine flour and honey and oil, and thou wast exceeding beautiful. And thou didst prosper into a kingdom. and thy renown went forth among the heathen for thy beauty, for it was perfect through my comeliness, which I had put upon thee, said a high and mighty God. But thou didst trust in thine own beauty, and playedst the harlot because of thy renown, and pouredst out thy fornications on every one that passeth by. His it was. And of thy garments thou didst take, and deckedst thy high places with divers colours, and playedst the harlot thereupon. The like thing shall not come, neither shall it be so. Thou hast also taken thy fair jewels of my gold and of my silver, which I have given thee, and madest to thyself images of men, and didst commit whoredom with them, and tookest thy broidered garments, and covered them. And thou hast set mine oil and mine incense before them. My meat also, which I gave thee, fine flour and oil and honey, wherewith I fed thee, thou hast even set it before them for a sweet savour. And thus it was, said a high and mighty God. Moreover, thou hast taken thy sons and thy daughters, whom thou hast borne unto me, and these hast thou sacrificed unto them to be devoured. Is this of thy whoredoms a small matter, that thou hast slain my children, and delivered them to cause them to pass through the fire for them? And in all thine abominations and thy whoredoms thou hast not remembered the days of thy youth, when thou wast naked and bare, and wast polluted in thy blood. And it came to pass after all thy wickedness, woe, woe unto thee, said a high and mighty God, that thou hast also built unto thee an eminent place, and hast made thee an high place in every street. Thou hast built thy high place at every head of the way, and hast made thy beauty to be abhorred, and hast opened thy feet to every one that passeth by, and multiplied thy whoredoms. Thou hast also committed fornication with the Egyptians, thy neighbors, great of flesh, and hast increased thy whoredoms, to provoke me to anger. Behold, therefore, I have stretched out my hand over thee, and have diminished thine ordinary food, and delivered thee unto the will of them that hate thee, the daughters of the Philistines, which are ashamed of thy lewd way. Thou hast played the whore also with the Assyrians, because thou wast unsatiable. Yea, thou hast played the harlot with them, and yet couldst not be satisfied. Thou hast moreover multiplied thy fornication in the land of Canaan and unto Chaldea, and yet thou wast not satisfied therewith. How weak is thine heart, said a high and mighty God, seeing thou dost all these things, the work of an imperious, whorish woman, in that thou buildest thine eminent place in the head of every way, and makest thine high place in every street, and hast not been as an harlot, in that thou scornest hire, but as a wife that committed adultery, which taketh strangers instead of her husband. They give gifts to all whores, but they givest thy gifts to all thy lovers, and hirest them, that they may come unto thee on every side for thy whoredoms. And the contrary is in thee from other women in thy whoredoms, whereas none followed thee to commit whoredoms. And in that thou givest a reward, and no reward is given unto thee. Therefore thou art contrary. Wherefore, O harlot, hear the word of a high and mighty God. Thus says a high and mighty God, our El Elohi, because thy filthiness was poured out, and thy nakedness discovered, through thy whoredoms with thy lovers, and with all the idols of thy abominations, and by the blood of thy children which thou didst give unto them. Behold, therefore, I will gather all thy lovers, with whom thou hast taken pleasure, and all them that thou hast loved, with all them that thou hast hated, and I will even gather them round about against thee, and will discover thy nakedness unto them, that they may see all thy nakedness. And I will judge thee as women that break wedlock and shed blood are judged. And I will give thee blood in fury and jealousy. And I will also give thee in their hand, and they shall throw down thine eminent place. and shall break down thy high places. They shall strip thee also of thy clothes, and shall take thy fair jewels, and leave thee naked and bare. They shall also bring up a company against thee, and they shall stone thee with stones, and thrust thee through with their swords. And they shall burn thine houses with fire, and execute judgments upon thee in the sight of many women. And I will cause thee to cease from playing the harlot, and thou also shalt give no hire any more. So will I make my fury toward thee to rest, and my jealousy shall depart from thee, and I will be quiet, and will be no more angry, because thou hast not remembered the days of thy youth, but hast fretted me in all these things. Behold, therefore I also will recompense thy way upon thine head, said I, mighty God. And thou shalt not commit this lewdness above all thine abominations. Behold, every one that useth proverbs shall use this proverb against thee, saying, As is the mother, so is her daughter. Thou art thy mother's daughter, that loaded her husband and her children, and thou art the sister of thy sisters, which load their husbands and their children. Your mother was a Hittite, and your father an Amorite. And thine eldest sister is Samaria. She had her daughters that dwell at thy left hand. And thy youngest sister that dwelleth at thy right hand is Sodom, and her daughters. Yet hast thou not walked after their ways, nor done after their abominations. But as if that were a very little thing, thou wast corrupt more than they in all thy ways. As I live, said a high and mighty God, Sodom thy sister had not done, she nor her daughters, as thou hast done, thou and thy daughters. Behold, this was the iniquity of thy sister Sodom. Pride, fullness of bread, and abundance of idleness was in her and in her daughters. Neither did she strengthen the hand of the poor and needy. And they were haughty, and committed abomination before me. Therefore I took them away as I saw good. Neither had Samaria committed half of thy sins, but thou hast multiplied thine abominations more than they, and hast justified thy sisters in all thine abominations which thou hast done. Thou also which hast judged thy sisters bear thine own shame, for thy sins that thou hast committed, more abominable than they. They are more righteous than thou. Yea, be thou confounded also, and bear thy shame in that thou hast justified thy sisters, when I shall bring again their captivity, the captivity of Sodom and her daughters, and the captivity of Samaria and her daughters. Then will I bring again the captivity of thy captives in the midst of them, that thou mayest bear thine own shame, and mayest be confounded in all that thou hast done, in that thou art a comfort unto them. When thy sister Sodom and her daughters shall return to their former estate, and Samaria and her daughters shall return to their former estate, then thou and thy daughters shall return to your former estate. For thy sister Sodom was not mentioned by thy mouth in the day of thy pride, before thy wickedness was discovered, as at the time of thy reproach of the daughters of Syria, and all that are round about her, the daughters of the Philistines, which despise thee round about. Thou hast borne thy lewdness and thine abomination, says Ahijah, mighty God. For thus says Ahijah, mighty God, I will even deal with thee as thou hast done, which hast despised the oath in breaking the covenant. Nevertheless, I will remember my covenant with thee in the days of thy youth, and I will establish unto thee an everlasting covenant. Then thou shalt remember thy ways and be ashamed, when thou shalt receive thy sisters, thine elder and thy younger, and I will give them unto thee for daughters, but not by the covenant. And I will establish my covenant with thee, and thou shalt know that I am Ahijah, mighty God. That thou mayest remember and be confounded, and never open thy mouth any more because of thy shame, when I am pacified toward thee for all that thou hast done, says Ahijah, mighty God. If he beget a son that is a robber, a shedder of blood, and that doth the like to any one of these things, and that did not any of those duties, but even had eaten upon the mountains, and defiled his neighbor's wife, had oppressed the poor and needy, had spoiled by violence, had not restored the pledge, and had lifted up his eyes to the idols, had committed abominations, had given forth upon usury, and had taken increase, shall he then live? He shall not live. He had done all these abominations, he shall surely die. His blood shall be upon him. Have I any pleasure at all that the wicked should die? Said a high and mighty God, and not that he should return from his ways and live? When the righteous turned away from his righteousness, and committed iniquity, sin, and doth according to all the abominations that the wicked man doeth, shall he live? All his righteousness that he had done shall not be mentioned, in his trespass that he had trespassed, and in his sin that he had sinned, and all in them shall he die. Yet you say, the way of Ahiah is not equal? Hear now, O house of Israel, is not my way equal, or not your ways unequal? Wherefore, say unto the house of Israel, thus says a high and mighty God, or are you polluted after the manner of your fathers, and commit you whoredom after their abominations? Moreover, the word of a high and mighty God came unto me, saying, Now, thou son of man, wilt thou judge the bloody city? Yea, thou shalt show her all her abominations. Then say thou, Thus says a high and mighty God, our El Elohi, the city shedded blood in the midst of it, that her time may come and make it idols against herself to defile herself. Thou art become guilty in thy blood that thou hast shed, and hast defiled thyself in thine idols which thou hast made. And thou hast caused thy days to draw near, and art come even unto thy years. Therefore have I made thee a reproach unto the heathen, and a mocking to all countries. Those that be near, and those that be far from thee, shall mock thee, which art infamous and much vexed. Behold, the princes of Israel, every one, were in thee to their power to shed blood. In thee have they set light by father and mother. In the midst of thee have they dealt by oppression with the strangers. In thee have they vexed the fatherless and the widow. Thou hast despised mine holy things, and hast profaned my Sabbaths. In thee are men that carry tales to shed blood, and in thee they eat upon the mountains. In the midst of thee they commit lewdness. In thee have they discovered their father's nakedness. In thee have they humbled her that was set apart for pollution. And one had committed abominations with his neighbor's wife, and another had lewdly defiled his daughter-in-law, and another in thee had humbled his sister, his father's daughter. In thee have they taken gifts to shed blood. Thou hast taken usury and increase, and thou hast greedily gained of thy neighbors by extortion, and hast forgotten me, said a high and mighty God. Behold, therefore, I have smitten mine hand at thy dishonest gain which thou hast made, and at thy blood which had been in the midst of thee. Therefore, thus says a high and mighty God, because thou hast forgotten me and cast me behind thy back, therefore bear thou also thy lewdness and thy whoredoms. A mighty God Ahiah said moreover unto me, Son of man, wilt thou judge Ahala and Ahalabah? Yea, declare unto them their abominations, that they have committed adultery, and blood is in their hands. And with their idols have they committed adultery, and have also caused their sons whom they bear unto me to pass for them through the fire to devour them. Wherefore, say unto them, Thus says a high and mighty God, You eat with the blood, and lift up your eyes toward your idols, and shed blood, and shall you possess the land? You stand upon your sword, you work abomination, and you defile every one his neighbor's wife. And shall you possess the land? Say thou thus unto them, Thus says the high and mighty God, our El Elohi, As I live, surely they that are in the waste shall fall by the sword, and him that is in the open field will I give to the beasts to be devoured. And they that be in the forts and in the caves shall die of the pestilence. Then shall you remember your own evil ways and your doings that were not good, and shall loathe yourselves in your own sight for your iniquities and for your abominations. And he said unto me, Son of man, the place of my throne and the place of the soles of my feet, where I will dwell in the midst of the children of Israel forever. And my holy name shall the house of Israel no more defile, neither they nor their kings by their whoredom, nor by the carcasses of their kings in their high places, in their setting of their threshold by my threshold, and their post by my post, and the wall between me and them. They have even defiled my holy name by their abominations that they have committed. Wherefore I have consumed them in my anger. Now let them put away their whoredom and the carcasses of the kings far from me, and I will dwell in the midst of them forever. And thou shalt say to the rebellious, even to the house of Israel, Thus says the Almighty God, O you house of Israel, let it suffice you of all your abominations, in that you have brought into my sanctuary strangers, uncircumcised in heart, and uncircumcised in flesh, to be in my sanctuary to pollute it, even my house, when you offer my bread, the fat and the blood, and they have broken my covenant because of all your abominations. And you have not kept the charge of mine holy things, but you have set keepers of my charge in my sanctuary for yourselves. The Levites that are gone away far from me when Israel went astray, which went astray after from me after their idols. Then they shall even bear their iniquity. Yet they shall be ministers in my sanctuary, having charge at the gates of the house and ministering to the house. They shall slay the burnt offering and the sacrifice for the people. And they shall stand before me, before them, to minister unto them, because they minister unto them before their idols, and cause the house of Israel to fall into iniquity. Therefore have I lifted up mine hand against them, said Almighty God. And they shall bear their iniquity, and they shall not come near unto me, to do the office of a priest unto me, nor to come near to any of my holy things, in the most holy place, but they shall bear their shame and their abominations which they have committed. The highest voice cried unto the city, and the man of wisdom shall see thy name. Hear you the rod, and who had appointed it? Are there yet the treasures of wickedness in the house of the wicked, and the scant measure that is abominable? Shall I count them pure with the wicked balances, and with the bag of deceitful weights? Woe to the bloody city! It is all full of lies and robbery. The prey departed not, because of the multitude of thy whoredoms, of the well-favored harlot, the mistress of witchcrafts, that selleth nations through her whoredoms, and families through her witchcrafts. Behold, I am against thee, said Almighty God of hosts, and I will discover thy skirt upon thy face, and I will show the nations thy nakedness, and the kingdoms thy shame. And I will cast abominable filth upon thee, and make thee vile, and will set thee as a gazing stock. Judah had dealt treacherously, and an abomination is committed in Israel and in Jerusalem. For Judah had profaned the holiness of Almighty God, which he had loved, and had married the daughter of a strange god. And he said unto them, You are they which justify yourselves before men, but Almighty God knoweth your hearts. For that which is highly esteemed among men is an abomination in the sight of mighty God Ahiah. Unto the pure all things are pure, but unto them that are defiled and unbelieving is nothing pure, but even their mind and conscience is defiled. They profess that they know mighty God Ahiah, but in works they deny him, being abominable and disobedient, and unto every good work reprobate. Regarding the New Jerusalem, and there shall in no wise enter into it anything that defile, neither whatsoever worketh abomination, or maketh a lie, but they which are written in the Lamb's book of life. He that overcometh shall inherit all things, and I will be his mighty God, and he shall be my son. But the fearful and unbelieving, and the abominable, and murderers, and whoremongers, and sorcerers, and idolaters, and all liars shall have their part in the lake which burneth with fire brimstone, which is the second death. And I want to thank you for listening to the topic Abominations, what is abominable to mighty God Ahia. Thank you for listening. Amen.